Not that I really pay attention much because I don't. It actually took me by surprise, but I think right last I checked, I was at like 75. So we're nearing 100 subscribers. How is this possible? I know like probably half of you are of the auxiliary slash the Legion. Praise Zorg and Hail Cargonia. Thank you for being an absolute wonderful part of my life the last couple of years and for keeping up and for following. The little bits that I put here are things I explain. I explain more here than I do in the Discord about certain things. And you know who you are. You know where our journeys have been together. One of you I have had the pleasure of being in your home twice now. Another one of you I've known since Hurricane Ian. I mean, John, you were like my first subscriber, I'm pretty sure. And it's been wonderful. I still owe your mom a wire wrap. I haven't forgot about that, bud. I have not. Nah, not letting that go. It'll come around. It'll come around. Just gotta be patient. I'm terrible sometimes about that. I apologize. So yeah, aside from the occasional wire app stuff that I post, a little bit of Hurricane stuff that I've left, I purged probably like half of my content. A lot of it was just drunken rambling last year, especially. And that's not necessarily something I want out there. Most cases, it was just random stuff, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I'm not so sure I feel comfortable with this existing because, I'll be real. I've had my struggles with different substance abuses and drug abuse and things like that throughout my adult life. And for the most part, I've got a lot of that contained. But I'm imperfect. I'm not the brightest example of a wonderful shining human being by any means. I have been through the ringer, so to speak, but so have we all. I mean, we've all got our stories, we've all got our lives and the things that have happened to us, from living through natural disaster to walking across the country a couple times. I have one more of those types of trips in my pocket for the future. I've been dealing with some physical problems the last couple of years, largely because of doing that, living that lifestyle, but as well being in the military. But I don't really attribute much of the physical damage to the military. Very, 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 very minor bits, if anything, because I wasn't in long enough. I didn't really do much. I didn't. In my mind, there's no reason to put any blame on physical pains. Only a real couple of them on the actual military itself. The actual pains, the aches and pains, the issues with my shoulders, my neck, especially my thighs and my legs, my joints. Man, that comes down to having gone nomad tripping several times throughout my 20s. And I have covered more than enough distance to have crossed this country twice. And the vast majority of having done that the first time was all done in the first setting. It's never been done all at once. The furthest I ever made it was Michigan to Arizona, and walking through the Arizona desert is a death sentence if you've just came from the very humid climate, which I did. That was hell. So young back then, man, so young, and that was my first trip, and that was one of the furthest I made it. And so, a huge motivation for that has always been somebody I lost from my time in service. He was killed in Kandahar in 2012, April 28th, and so that's actually the anniversary that's coming up. I don't really put all the eggs in one basket on Memorial Day. I try to remember your day. I remember you on your day when I lost you. The chat window that was left open on Facebook back when you could, before Messenger was an app, right? This was back when Facebook still had its own instant messaging system built in, which I'm sure it probably still does aside the Messenger app. I don't know how any of that works. I haven't used the web-based browser anymore, but I do remember leaving a chat window open. Unfortunately, I never got a response to because he was killed on a patrol. And I do recall a very, very strong anger coming over me sometime later that day that I could never place. And it wasn't until about 24, 48 hours later that I finally got confirmation that we did actually lose somebody. But I mean, it's those little things about life that I can't explain. I mean, that's the force right there for you, bro. That's that's you're Jedi and you feel your master just got killed by a Sith or something like that, man. It's equivalent to that. That's the force right there, bud. I'm not trying to push beliefs on anybody, but those they're just certain things about life that I absolutely cannot explain, and that is certainly one of them. Is knowing I just lost somebody, and then being right about it. And that has been a huge part of my life, and I think that's I don't know if I put too much into it or read too much into it from all the drugs that I was doing, especially at the time. Coming out of military service, that was my coping mechanism, was doing a lot of acid and doing mushrooms and stuff like that. I'll admit it. I've got my history, right? And I've overcome that. I haven't touched psychedelics in years, absolute years. So most I do now is a six pack every couple days or so. And even that was a problem for a while. Even that six pack was a nightly thing, and usually it was a 12. That was last year especially. So that was coming up in my content, and I'm not here to be a content creator by any means. So that's pretty much why I'm addressing this. Is thank you to all of you that are here. That those who found me through my shorts more than anything. I know I've probably picked up a few of you. I'd like to think mostly because of my Wire app switch. So one of you did ask, by the way, I don't know if you're following me or not, but the question did come up, how do you acquire those? You'd find me in person. I've never been one that wants to put those on the internet. That just starts adding red tape. But also, when I try to do it more than just as a hobby, I do it for fun at this point. When I try to actually make a business out of it, it doesn't go well. I put too much expectation, and my inner perfectionist comes out, and the expectations of perfect every time, or you do it again, are the reason why somebody's getting a pound of scrap to melt down into challenge coins. So so regular followers, I've been talking about what's called Op Holmes Lake for the last couple of years now, and so about that soon, because quite frankly my mind has me kind of frustrated right now. Actually, I'm partly just venting here. I needed to get this off my chest because it's just like I don't really have very many people I talk to. I pretty much just work, sleep, repeat, and then there's the Discord. But lately I don't feel, I guess, comfortable putting some of the personal details out like I used to. There are reasons for that I don't want to get into. It's not throwing any shade or anything like that, but I have found that as open as our community is, I don't think all voices are respected as equally. Just because it is known that sometimes those voices are spoken in an influence that isn't exactly healthy. And so because I've got a few problems and because I've had to work on overcoming them, I don't want to make it seem like the only time I ever am open about what's going on or need to vent is when I have been drinking. Because I don't want no shade. I love the community for what it is. But let's just say that things got a little shaken last year especially, and I'm weary of that. I've been weary of that for a while, and so I've been minding my P's and Q's. I don't know if this is exactly the greatest place to put it, personal stuff out or talk about these sorts of things, but again, as I said, I don't exactly have very many friends out here. I've been living in New Jersey now for the last year, and aside from like the people I work with and my regulars, I mean, man, I'm a gamer. I don't go on the beach that's a block away. I don't really go out and about. I don't go meeting girls. I never have. It's just never something that's really, interested me. And now I'm getting later on in my life and I'm slowly asking myself, so are we ever going to solve this? You should probably have a wife and kids someday, maybe. There's a long time where it's like, I'll never be good enough for that. But that's your own self doubts, man. Don't listen to that stuff. Don't ever beat yourself down. Because, man, I've seen plenty of YouTubers where it's, I don't really make much content, but I just need to voice the fact that I am single, lonely, and I hate it. And here's all the things that are wrong with me. And it's like, dude, you're spending more time beating yourself up than anything. If any of those people end up coming across this video randomly, if you just end up down the rabbit hole of just vlogs, I guess, of people just talking into their phones just to say things, it's remarkable. A lot of the people who are just in that void of loneliness, and especially this last winter, I definitely felt that way just because, everything was closed and it was like COVID again. You talk to one person a week, and that definitely led me down some dark rabbit holes, to say the least. I found it remarkable how much content is out there from people who are they're just frustrated. They're just, they're sad and lonely. I'm a little bit sad and very lonely, but I try not to let that get to me as much, that's not the stuff that I'm trying to express. I'm trying to, even since the get-go of my content, I'm trying to laugh in the face of natural disaster. I'm just trying to have a little fun. If some dude lights a forest on fire, I'm going to cover it a little bit. I'm not here to make a dime. I don't have no sponsorships, and I don't ever want them. I'm not here to be a content creator. I'm not here to be a vlogger. Really, I'm just a guy that watches videos like you. I watch other people, and occasionally I feel like I have something to say, and so I just say it. And I upload it, and if people watch it, they watch it, and if they don't, that's okay. It's probably for the best that you don't. Because sometimes I just get on a tangent. Sometimes I just run my mouth like I'm doing right now, But let's circle back. Because I just went on a major tangent. Op Holmes Lake. Let's get this over with. Let's get that over with, is my state of mind. But as a nomad, right, having been in so many different places and lived in so many different states and been as well traveled as I apparently am, it is weird for me to have been in one place like this for as long as I have. And I'm going to do the whole season. I'm not bitching out. I'm not quitting. I absolutely refuse. Things are a little weird right now, but it's not nearly as chaotic and making me want to put a fist through the wall like it did last year. But enlightening certain things, you notice what others do, and I'm not going to really get into detail with that, but you see the rust under the polish a lot more clearly when you take the goggles off, man. And that's essentially where I'm at right now. There are some things I'm actually starting to see for what they are, and I don't know if that's conducive on the long term. Need I say any more? So I figure, hey, let's, ride this train for just a little bit longer. And then because of the physical issues that I was talking about earlier, back to the case in point here, I feel it needs to be done now. I would love to do it now, but I got to wait a year. But you get my drift, right? The sooner the better, because this winter / early spring especially, man, I lost so many hours of sleep. So very many hours of sleep lost just because my joints are absolutely killing me. And even the podcast that I work with at the moment, there was the last recording I did with them, I felt so bad about, just because my physical pain was so much that I basically I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't drop out of the call or the recording, but for the second half of the whole thing, dead silence, because I'm having to stretch and am physically debilitated by the changes of temperatures and things like that. And it's all in the joints. It's from having the pack on and from walking all those miles. And you don't always set your pack right. You don't always set your gear right. You hear a lot of guys going into special forces selection and stuff like that, where it's the big emphasis is on, did you set your gear right? When we just sent you on this 20-mile ruck march, was everything set up right? You want to know how many times when I've been out on the road nomad tripping that the answer to that question was no, absolutely not. I just stuffed that back in there and got a step in. That's bad for your body, bud. That damage is added up. And so it's dude, you might as well do this while you've still got the last glimmer of your youth left, because here in my close to mid 30s now, still early 30s. Let's not put mid on it, mid on it yet. I haven't quite got there. That's next year. And the thing about that is, I hear about 80-year-old Judy. I'd said something about Judy in a short a couple days ago, and I still admire Judy. Judy is 80 years old, man, and she is out nomad tripping. So this idea that I have that you have to do it young isn't exactly accurate, but just hear me out. I spent the majority of my 20s doing that, off and on, to where it's, I mean, even 2 years ago, the entire reason I live in New Jersey now and have this job that I do is because I was living under a bridge in Florida, and my neighbors were like, want to come work for us? Well, I'm not doing anything else better right now, so why not? Boom. Now you're in New Jersey. And that's that. But that lifestyle has come with a cost, right? It's yeah, I feel like I've got a decade before I catch up to some of the kids my age that are, well established, have a home and a family, and just as many of those that are good like that and are good and set up and whatnot, and their lives and their marriages and their families and their blah blah blah. There's an equal fucking number that are just like me, that some of them never left their parents' house. Others, they've had to be on the streets. Just like me, I've been on and off the streets so much of my adult life, it's not even funny anymore. And then that comes down to just on my, when I was covering the wildfires that just happened in the last couple days, is, man, when I was 18, 19 years old, the 2008 recession and housing crisis had, still in full bloom. So a lot of us millennials, man, we've never recovered from that. We've never been able to push past that. And that was what we entered adulthood into. So that's why I don't understand kids that want to burn entire forests down right now. Like, you think hardship is unique just to you? You think just because you entered the adult life now and it's rough that you're the only one, that you're bitterly alone? You're not. You are absolutely not. People have been dealing with that. It's called life for a long time. 2,000 years of human history are full of perseverance, man. So, back to case in point is, time's ticking. I need to work for a living. So I've only got just one more time to do this. Otherwise, you're going to put it off until you're 80, and I don't really want to do that because... Well, actually, I don't know what I would do at 80. That's 47 years from now. Maybe I would go. Maybe I would, but beside the point. Let's just assume I wouldn't. Let's just assume that the damage done to try that at 80... I would have my wits about me enough still to know that, no, that's gonna hurt like hell. Even if life doesn't already by that point. It certainly does now. 33 going on fucking 80, man. Seriously. I feel like it. Anyway. So, I'm thinking next year, okay? Next year we're gonna do it, and so the big debate is, do I take the bike or not? Because, I mean, I did kind of get a nice bike. Not just a Walmart $20 one, but actually, I've invested in it. I'll probably have to invest a little bit more into it. I mean, I rid across most of New Jersey the day I got it, all but 40 miles from the far side, inland side, to the shoreline. So, to do that with a pack, which I did have a decent amount of gear on me because I'd been away for about a month, I would want a rack for that. I would want to set the bike up a little bit to carry the weight that you're going to need to be on the road between food, water, clothes, medical, etc., etc. Not to go down the whole list of stuff that I carry, but those are some of the big ones. Yeah, I would want to make a few modifications. Otherwise, in the spirit of why I want to do this in the first place, it's more than likely going to be done on foot. Just because, if you remember, I lost a buddy to cancer, as well as casualties in war. But a buddy of mine passed away of cancer a couple of years ago, and we were there for him. I think it was probably 8-10 hours before he passed away, maybe 12. So this is probably his last coherent, semi-coherent, not coherent as you can be on your deathbed. One of the things he asked was to go walk across the Mackinac Bridge, which you can only do at one time of the year, and that is Labor Day. So, unfortunately, Libra passed away in May, so that wasn't exactly something we could do, but I hold on to that. And so that is part of the route. And the route is start in Rochester, New York, meander my way up to Lake Ontario, and then hug Lake Ontario, heading due west, go visit Niagara Falls, and just, casually hug the lake shore until you reach Lake Erie, and then you casually walk all the way across Ohio, hugging Lake Erie. And then you go underneath Michigan and into Indiana. And from Indiana, you find your way to Lake Michigan. And you hug Lake Michigan, and you go through some of the places that I really don't want to go. Looking at you, Gary, Indiana. Looking at you, Chirac. But you casually hug that shoreline all the way through Indiana and a little sliver of Illinois there. And you go all the way up through Wisconsin, and you're on, old repurposed railroad trails that are now bike trails. Pretty much, from what I've scouted, I'd say about 60 to 70% of the entire route. That's all states included. The entire route you can do on bike trails. So you hug a lot of that, and you can go from, just before Gary, Indiana, all the way up to, I think there are a couple of spots in Wisconsin where it does break apart, but you can follow that pretty much all the way up to Milwaukee, and I'm pretty sure from Milwaukee all the way up to Green Bay, right? And so after Green Bay, and I've already done the after Green Bay part, and I actually was forced to turn around because just reasons. It wasn't a good time. That's where it gets rough. So you're coming up all the way through Wisconsin, hugging the lakeshore. You're aiming for Lake Superior, crossing in the Upper Peninsula, right? And so you have physically touched Ontario and Erie at this point, but I have deliberately been avoiding Lake Michigan, even though I've been next to it for a long time now. I haven't touched it yet. So you go all the way up, you touch Lake Superior, and you cut across the UP, and that's going to fucking suck. Service is going to be nearly non-existent. The bugs are huge, and it is cold even in July. There is massive, massive space between anything remotely close to civilized, and anything remotely civilized is usually a very, very, very small town. A lot of them are catered to tourism, so they're going to be expensive. So you come across the UP of Michigan, and by this point, you are hoping to be nearing the Mackinac Bridge. As I said earlier, you can only physically walk, or ride a bike across the Mackinac Bridge Labor Day weekend. It is an event. It is an annual thing, and so long as it is not shut down, that is my only chance of getting from the Upper Peninsula down back into the Lower Peninsula, still on foot, to which point I walk over to Lake Huron, touch it, because now you have touched Ontario, Erie, Superior, and now Huron, and that spells hose, which is not a very good acronym. Homes is what we are taught since childhood. So the last lake to be touched, physically touched, on this grand journey is Lake Michigan. And I could have done that at any point. But the finish line is still a good, I want to say 200 miles away yet. And that is the town, or actually just outside of the town I was born. There's a very, very specific beach that has, shall we say, a little bit of history with thigh, and only very specific people. I don't think any of them are, you all that are still watching here nearly half an hour into this. If you have watched this whole thing, congratulations, you've got a great attention span or really want to know what I'm thinking. Very, very specific people are going to know where the finish line is. Let's just say my mental health was compromised, and that's where the finish line is. This is where I disappeared to. So that will be near where I was born, and that is where I end things. Touched Lake Michigan. By now, it's at best the third week of September, having started most likely in May. That is Off Holmes Lake. And that is the finale to a decade of nomad tripping. After that, dude, you gotta work for a living.